You don't remember Red Dead Redemption 2 like a game. You remember it like a place you used to go. A cold morning ride through the mountains, a campfire song you didn't mean to stop and listen to, the sound of your horse breathing after a long ride, and that strange quiet feeling when you came back to camp and realized everyone there felt a little too real. And that's what makes Red Dead Redemption 2 so different. Years later, people don't just remember the missions. They remember how it felt to exist in the world. And I think that's because Red Dead Redemption 2 does something most modern games are afraid to do. It slows you down long enough to care. And the more I think about it, the more I realize Red Dead Redemption 2 doesn't feel real because of graphics or story. It feels real because it understands how memory works. Most games today are designed around stimulation, fast movement, fast rewards, constant noise and distraction. The second your brain has even a tiny moment of silence, the game throws another objective at you, another marker, another explosion, another reward, another dopamine hit. Modern games are terrified of losing your attention, but Red Dead Redemption 2 does something almost uncomfortable at first. It asks for your patience. And honestly, that's probably why so many people bounced off the game early on, because everything is slower. Arthur walks slower, looting is slower, skinning animals is slower, even riding your horse feels heavy. At first, it almost feels inconvenient, but then something changes. You stop playing the game like a checklist and you start living inside it. Think about how many moments players remember that weren't even important to progression. Riding through fog early in the morning while the sun slowly comes through the trees, or accidentally finding a house in the middle of nowhere and stopping just to look around. Maybe hearing thunder in the distance while riding back to camp at night, or that feeling when you're traveling somewhere far away and you decide not to fast travel, even though you absolutely could. Not because it's efficient, but because the ride itself feels calming. And that's where the game does something genius. The world doesn't feel designed purely for entertainment. It feels like it exists whether you're there or not. And strangely enough, that's what makes players emotionally attached to it, because real places feel like that too. You can see it in the camp especially, and honestly I think the camp might be one of the most emotionally intelligent parts of any game ever made, because the camp doesn't just function as a hub. It feels temporary, and players can feel that without even realizing it. Think about how many times you walk through camp slowly instead of immediately starting the next mission. Listening to random conversations, watching Pearson cook, hearing Uncle complain about something, seeing Dutch talking to somebody by the fire, and sitting there at night while everyone sings. There's this strange warmth to it. But underneath that warmth, there's also sadness, because the game quietly makes you aware that none of this is going to last forever. And that feeling becomes stronger the longer that you play. That's why Red Dead Redemption 2 hits people emotionally in a way most games don't. Not because it's constantly emotional, because it gives emotion room to breathe. Most games try to force emotional moments through giant cutscenes and dramatic speeches. Red Dead Redemption 2 builds emotion through presence, through silence, through downtime. And because of that, even small moments start to feel meaningful. Like riding with a gang member while they casually talk about their life, or returning to camp after a long mission and hearing music in the distance, or maybe seeing Arthur quietly journal his thoughts after something happened. The game constantly slows down just enough for you to absorb what you're feeling, and most modern games never allow that anymore. But the real reason all of this comes together so well is because of Arthur Morgan. Because Arthur doesn't feel like a superhero, he feels human, he gets tired. He sounds uncertain sometimes. He reflects on things. He changes slowly over time, like we do in real life. And the older players get, the more Arthur starts feeling less like a protagonist and more like a real person trying to figure life out while time slowly moves around him. And honestly, I think that's why this game hits differently as people age. When a lot of us first played Red Dead Redemption 2, it was easy to focus on the action, the robberies, the shootouts, the open world freedom. But years later, those aren't the moments people talk about the most. People talk about the atmosphere, the rides, the campfire talks, the feeling of being somewhere peaceful just for a little while. Because eventually you realize Red Dead Redemption 2 isn't really about a cowboy. It's about trying to hold on to a world that is disappearing. And deep down, most people understand that feeling. And maybe that's why the game feels so peaceful even though it's filled with violence. Because underneath everything, Red Dead Redemption 2 gives players something modern life rarely gives us anymore: mental stillness. There are moments in this game where you're not multitasking, you're not overstimulated, you're not consuming constant information. You're just existing in the moment, fishing in a lake, riding through the rain, watching sunlight hit the mountains, listening to the sounds around you. And for a little while, your brain slows down with the game. That feeling is rare now, not just in gaming, but in life. And I think players emotionally connect to Red Dead Redemption 2 because the game reminds them what it feels like to actually be present. And maybe that's the real reason Red Dead Redemption 2 feels different after all of these years. Not because it had the best graphics, although it did have incredible graphics, and not because it had the biggest map. The map was also really big, but because it understood something most modern games forgot. People don't remember games just because they were exciting. They remember games because of how those games made them feel during quiet moments nobody else can fully explain. And Red Dead Redemption 2 is filled with those moments. Moments where nothing important was happening, but somehow you never wanted them to end. Most games fight for your attention every second. Red Dead Redemption 2 wanting something much harder to get: your presence. And years later, that's why it still feels real. If you enjoyed this content, please consider subscribing and liking and commenting. I'd love to talk more about this game. It is one of the greatest games of all time and one of my favorites, and I still try to play it occasionally. And if you want to continue hearing more of this, again, follow my channel, hit that notification bell. I will be talking about games from this angle, from a psychological angle, as I move forward. And I would love for you to sit around the campfire with me and have these discussions. Thank you so much, and just remember, every day is game day.